Hey guys, welcome to GED Math Level 4 practice test. So this is the hardest math practice test. And there are level 1, 2, and 3, of course. The way to go about doing this is in the description, there are 20 questions that are on this test with the multiple choice answer possibilities. So I would go through and do all those first, then watch the video, see which answers are correct and incorrect that you did, as well as getting a lot of the reasoning for how to go about um, going through these problems. I try to remember to say this at the beginning of all these videos for the practice exams. You need a 145 on each subject area. So in this case, the subject area is math. 145 is about 65%, right? So out of 20 questions here, that would be 13. These questions are harder than some of the others. So if if you got a 12 or something like that, a score on some of the other tests might give you a better shot still getting the passing score. If you're thinking about college, really you want it to be more like 75 or 80%. We do have a mobile app. It's free to install. The link is right at the top of the description. Thousands of GED practice questions. All the questions we have here are coming right out of the app, and detailed feedback for each question. And the app will customize to you as you use it. And so I think it's a great way to go about studying, and that's really what we all need is more practice questions, right? We need to watch these videos to get the concepts down, but then we really need practice answering questions. So having done this practice test is great, and if you need more help, that's where I would go. All right, having said all of that, let's get going here. Okay, how many ways can you arrange 4 people in a line? Okay, so when you see something like this, people in a line, they're just asking, the way you go about solving it is 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, that's the combination. And 4 times 3 is 12, 12 times 2 is 24. Of course, 24 times 1 is 24. So that's the answer for question 1 is 24. Lindsey's byte combo has 4 numbers and none of the numbers can be the same. Assuming there are 10 possible numbers, 0 through 9, how many possible combinations are there? Okay, so again, so we start off with, in the beginning, we have 10 possible combinations, right? That's what they just told us. And the key part here was none of the numbers can be the same. Okay, so the second set of combinations only has 9, right? Because they can't be the same. The next one is 8 because it can't be whatever it was for the first 2. And then one more time we do this. Okay, so, and if you go through that, and I'll save you the calculation stuff. If we go 10 times 9 times 8 times 7, we get 5,040. Okay, now if it had not said, if it was just 4 numbers, but the numbers could repeat, right? Then it would be 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, right? And that would be the 10,000, answer choice D. But because they can't repeat, then we take 1 away each time, and it's 10 times 9 times 8 times 7. So that's a big difference there as far as doing combinations. Negative exponents, everybody's favorite. Okay, so 3 to the negative 2. So when we're looking at this, 3 to the negative 2, the way I want you to think about it is, first of all, just think of what is 3 squared? 3 squared, 3 times 3, that's 9. And then put a 1 in the numerator. That's it. That's all you do. Okay. 3 to the negative 3, same thing. At first, okay, know you're going to turn this into a fraction. What is 3 to the third? Right? 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. So 3 to the third is 27. Put that in the denominator, the bottom part of the fraction, and just put a 1 in the numerator, right? So people get, a little intimidated sometimes by these negative exponents, but that's all you're doing. You're just doing regular exponent stuff. Put that in the denominator, 1 up top in the numerator, and you're done. Okay, so now if we're adding 1/9 plus 1 over 27. We need to get common denominator, right? So 1 over 9 is the same as, if I just multiply it by 3 over 3, is the same as 3 over 27, right? And now I can add them together, plus 1 over 27. Denominator stays the same, 3 plus 1 is 4, right there. All right, that's negative exponents for you. Okay, cube root of 64, right? So I would just probably guess and check these, right? So 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. Answer choice B is the one we want there. Okay, we get into some scientific notation stuff. Same thing. People get more intimidated by the stuff than is necessary. Okay, so we start off with 8.9, right, times 10 to the negative 4. Okay, so this is going to be your answer, but let me show you why. Okay, so we go, and then say we, right, so we need to go 1, 2, 3, 4 spots to the left because of this negative 4. Okay, and so when you do that and you go 4 spots over there, then you end up with 0.0089. Okay, it's really that simple. Not a problem at all. If what I just did confuses you, usually it's just seeing a few examples and then getting to doing the practice yourself. So if you look at our scientific notation video, it goes over several examples where hopefully it starts to kind of simplify the process and completely make sense for you. So I would look at that first, look at the scientific notation video, then check out the app, get a lot more practice. Okay, 36 million in scientific notation. Okay, and so you can see all of them have 3.6 times something, right? So they all go like 3.6, okay, times some number, right? And so with every number here, we're going to the right is we're going up 1 as far as the exponent, times 10 to the whatever, right? So if you look at this 36 million, right? So starting from right here at where the 3 and the 6 are, right? So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 decimal places, right? Because it's going over 7 spots from 3.6, the answer is 3.6 times 10 to the 7th, right? And that's all we're doing, right? So, right, so if I went 1, 2, 3, then I'd have to add a couple zeros in there, right? So 3.6 times 10 to the second, right? If you're kind of just going on these backwards, right? If it was, so here we have 36 million. If it was 3,600,000, that would be 3.6 times 10 to the 6th, for example. Hopefully that makes sense. If it's confusing at all, again, go into the video. We have several more examples and it'll start to make more sense. And also remember, this is level 4, so some of these stuff is harder. Really make sure we're comfortable with levels 1, 2, and 3 first. That's more low-hanging fruit. Okay, so we got 9a squared b times 4ab squared. So 9 times 4 is 36. When we are multiplying exponents, we add them. Okay, so we have a squared, and then really a is the same as a to the first. So a squared times a is a to the third. And then we have b, which again, so b is just b to the first times b squared. Again, we are adding those exponents, so we're just adding 1 and 2. And that ends up being 3 also. So we have 36, a to the third, b to the third, and that is answer choice D down here. All right, again, when multiplying exponents, we add them. Okay, question 4. All right, so it's just a factoring question. Right, so we set this stuff up. Equals 0. Okay, and so we always think we got an x here, we got an x here. Okay, and then so we have this number here is 12. I'm circling. Okay, and so we need the numbers that are going to be here and here to multiply to 12, but to add up to -7. Okay, and so because it has to multiply to 12 but add to -7, is hopefully we can see that both of these numbers are going to have to be negative, right? So like that, -3 and -4, right? So those are really going to be our two numbers, and then when we go ahead and go through the factoring process, right, make sure we did it right, is we multiply by both of those, and we'll multiply by both of these, and then we're good to go. So right, so x times x is x squared, right? And x times -4 is -4x. And then -3 times x minus 3x. And then -3 times -4 plus 12. Right? And you can see these two right here, -4x minus 3x are going to combine to -7x. And so we'll have x squared minus 7x plus 12. Okay, that means we did it right. So to write this, that factor down there again, we have x minus 3 times x minus 4 equals 0. Now, what we're looking at is we're trying to figure out, so if inside of this parentheses, right, inside of that, is if that number is 0, it doesn't, whatever is inside of this one won't matter, right, is the answer is going to be 0, because 0 times anything is 0. Okay, so if x right here is 3, then we'll have 3 minus 3 is 0, and then the solution will be 0. So one of the answers for x is 3. That's an answer. And then same thing for this guy over here on the right. Right? So we have x minus 4. So if x equals 4, 4 minus 4 is 0. And the solution will be 0. Okay? And those are our two answers. So we have x equals 3 and 4. And so that means answer choice B is the one we want. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Kind of a broken record here. If not, watch video, get a lot of practice in the app, right? That's kind of, that is the formula, no pun intended, for success. Okay, harder one. -9x squared plus 44 equals 0, right? So what they're asking us here is, can we get this -9x squared to equal -144? And so before we say I have no clue, is so if you look at the numbers, all the numbers are either 3 or 4, right? And I know that some of them have negatives on it. But so what we're basically saying is, so let's just plug in both of those and see what happens. Okay, so we have, let's do 3 first. Okay, so if I have -9 times, we said we're just going to say x is 3 squared, right? And we need that to equal -144. Okay, so 3 squared is 9. 9 times -9 is -81. Okay, and so if this happens to be negative, it won't matter, right? You get the same thing, right? And so it doesn't, anything that has a 3 we know isn't going to work. Okay, so get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. All we have left is 4 and -4. Okay, so let's see what happens with 4. So we're hoping that that works, right? Because otherwise we're going to be completely lost because we don't have any other answer choices. But let's see what happens. Okay, so again, it's -9 times 4 squared, and we need that to end up equaling -144, right? Okay, so 4 squared is 16. -9 times 16, what do you know? It equals -144. And so whether it's 4 or -4, it'll work out exactly the same, right? Because -4 squared is also going to be 16. So answer C is the one that we go with. Okay, 10, factoring again. So right, we're starting to see some factors here on level 4, and so that should probably, like, especially when you see like more than one, on any of these practice tests, you're seeing a couple factoring questions, should in our minds be thinking, okay, we really need to be familiar with factoring. Okay, and so you could do it two ways. One is you could go and actually go through the process of factoring it, and the other is you could just multiply each of these out and see which one equals x squared plus x minus 20. Either is fine. We'll go ahead and do the factoring. Okay, so you really do need to be familiar with this. Okay, so we got x in each of these, and then what we're saying is we need a number that multiplies to negative 20 but adds up to positive 1, right? So it's going to have to be that of the two numbers, they're going to be very similar, but one is one greater than the other. And if we do that, it would be something like this, right? X plus 5 and x minus 4, right? And if we add all those up, then we end up with x squared plus x minus 20, which means that answer choice B is the one that we want. Give me one sec here. Excuse me. Sorry for the delay. Let's move on to question 11. So it says a line passes through points at coordinates 2, 5, and negative 4, 3. What is slope? Okay. So for slope, we go, okay, so let's see if we can do this. We'll draw this out for you at first. Okay, so when you're doing coordinates, this is considered x1. That's just a comma there. This is y1. This is don't know what happened there. This is considered x2. This is considered y2. Okay, and for slope, it's y2 minus y1 divided by x2. Sorry guys, x2 minus x1. Okay, so what we're doing when we look at these numbers here is, so first we want to find y2, which is this guy right here, which is that thing, 3. Okay, 3 is y2. Okay, and minus y1, right? y2 minus y1 right here. Okay, y1 is the 5. So we go 3 minus 5. And over, and then it's x2 minus x1. So x2 is the negative 4. Right there, that's x2. And x1 is the one we haven't done yet, which is 2. So negative 4 minus 2. So when we do all that, 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Negative 4 minus 6, negative 4 minus 2, sorry, is negative 6. So that's negative 2 divided by negative 6. Remember that 2 negatives makes a positive, and we can reduce 2 6 down to 1/3. And right there, that is slope. So it's kind of a long, drawn-out explanation. Hopefully it helped. Okay, and then we have y-intercept. So all these concepts, you'll see questions like this, right? You're going to need to know how to find slope. And to be able to find y-intercept, first thing we got to do is know how to find slope. Okay, so it's, again, y2 minus y1. So that's 3 minus 4 divided by x2 minus x1. That's 5 minus 0. Okay, and 3 minus 4 is negative 1. 5 minus 0 is 5. Okay, so that's our slope. Okay, now that we know slope, now we can go ahead and solve for y-intercept. So we need to next know this formula, y equals mx plus b. Okay. Jeez. Y equals mx plus b. Okay. And then we plug in. Okay, so let's say we take this right here, 0, 4. Okay, so 0 is x, y is 4, right? We start plugging in. So 4 we said was the y, right? So you just plug right where we had y. I put 4. That's all we did there. Equals, and then we put the slope next. So slope is m. Don't ask why they can't make it easier for you. Call it s or something. They just can't. Okay, so there's negative 1/5, and x is 0, right? Right there. Y is 4, x is 0. We're just plugging the stuff in. Plus b. Okay, now 4 negative 1/5 times 0 is just 0 plus b. Okay, b is the y-intercept here, right? B is 4, right? 0 plus b is just b. B is 4 right there, and that's all we do. Okay, it's a tough one. Some of these, yeah, we're definitely getting to the tougher questions. Okay, boxes of strawberries are on sale at the grocery store. Boxes are available in either small or large. For the day, there were 3 small and 14 large boxes purchased for a total of $216. How much does a large box cost? I would say this is the hardest question on any of our practice tests for GED math. Okay, so first, here's what we do. S plus L is 17. Okay, and then 3S, whoops, wrote it wrong. Okay, 3S plus 14L equals the total amount, which is 216. Okay, and then we look to combine, right? And so the way we're going to do that is we're just going to say, let's get rid of those S's, so we just have the L, right? So to get rid of the S's, I need to multiply this by -3. That's a -3, written kind of weird. And this by -3. Okay, so when I do that, then I have -3s here and 3s right there, right? And so what I'll have down here, I'm just going to put this stuff down here so it's a little easier to see. So I have -3s and -3l, right? Because I multiplied the -3 by both. And then I have 17 times -3, which is -51. Sort of hard to believe this all works, right? Okay, so then I have 3s minus 3s. Those cross each other out. Okay, that's now gone. I now have 11l equals, and then 216 minus 51 is 165. Okay, if I divide each side by 11, L equals 15. Pretty hard, right? Okay, this is called system of equations. Okay, it's definitely one of the hardest level 4 topics. We have plenty of system of equation questions. Sometimes they will be a word problem. A lot of times they'll just have the two different equations set up, and then you need to figure out how to get rid of one of them, so one of the variables that you can solve. And this is how you do it. Okay, so probably more practice needed for most of us. If you're good on this, I would guess you're probably in pretty good shape for GED math, because it's one of the harder questions. Okay, find the value of x. This is also a system of equations, but not quite as hard as that last one. Okay, so we have 2x minus 5y is 48, 5y minus 4x is 20. Okay, and they want us to solve for x. So somehow we're trying to get rid of these y's, right? So in this one, they make it easier for us though, in that I have minus 5y here, and you can just combine these equations. And here this is 5 plus 5y, right? There's no negative next to it. So if I add these two equations together, these guys are just going to cross out. Okay, and when I add them together, then I'm going to have 2x up on the first equation minus 4x on that second equation. And that'll lead to minus 2x equals 48 plus 20. That's 68. Okay, and if I divide by negative 2 both sides, that'll give me x by itself. And 68 divided by negative 2 is negative 34. Okay, so that one's a little bit easier, right? Got to be kind of comfortable with how we combine these equations, but that's a simpler one to get through. Strawberries was a tough one. Okay, domain is next. Again, any questions you guys have if you do stuff and it's like either you went too fast or I just don't understand how you did this, just ask me. I'm happy to, even if it's like, man, I'm just lost on that one, that's fine. I'll, put up another question, right? Just within the comments, just put up another question and hopefully being able to see a few more of them helps. Or if there's more specific questions, ask me that too. Always get back to you. Okay, domain. So we have x divided by x squared plus 10x plus 25. So usually the problem with this stuff is people just don't understand what they mean by domain, right? So if you understood what they're asking you, then it starts to get a little bit easier. Okay, so let me write this out so it's a little bit easier to look at. So x divided by x squared plus 10x plus 25. Okay, and so what they're saying is there a number that you could plug in for x that would make the denominator 0? Okay, and you're like, where did you get that from? It's just what domain means, because when you have a 0 in the denominator, then you don't have a real number. Okay, and a lot of your answer choices are going to be all real numbers or all real numbers except something. Okay, and so and on these answer choices, so you look at answer choice A, it says all real numbers except -5. And so what that means is any real number works. You can put any real number in the denominator for the value of x and it would work, but if you put in -5, then the denominator will be 0. Okay, and so we just check for that. Okay, so it says all real numbers except for -5. Okay, so -5 squared plus 10 times -5 plus 25. Okay, and so if this equals 0, then answer choice A is correct. Okay, so -5 squared, let's go through it. -5 squared is 25 plus 10 times -5 is -50 plus 25. Okay, so 25 minus 50 is -25 plus 25 equals 0. It ends up, this is the correct answer. Answer choice A. Right? Answer choice, anything that's positive, we know isn't going to be the right answer, right? So as far as like 5 and -5, so like 5 squared is 25, and then 10 times 5 is 50, right? So you're going to end up with 25 plus 50 plus 25. So that's 100, right? So that's not going to be it, right? So it ends up this is the one that works, but that's all you're doing. Long explanation, but you're plugging in the one that says all numbers except for, and then whatever it says is you're plugging that in to the formula, seeing if that gets you where the denominator equals 0. tough one also, right? Domain, tougher than really almost anything. System of equations, also tough, right? We're getting into the toughest questions that you can face. Okay, Cable Guy cable costs 20 per month. Gold Standard cable only charged 12 per month, but they had a $100 installation fee. After 1 year, who offers a better price? For Cable Guy cable, use the function P equals 20M, and that just means price equals 20 times the number of months. And for Gold Standard, use P equals 12M plus 100. So I think they could easily be throwing you off when they use the word function. All they're saying here is, okay, so for cable, first of all, right, so it said it costs 20 per month. Okay, so we'll go and throw that one in there. 20 per month for 12 months, right? So it's because it said after 1 year. So 20 times 12 months in a year is a total of 240, which is a lot cheaper than my cable. And gold is the other one. Okay, and so gold, right? And so if you look at what we did, so they said use the function P equals 20M, right? And that's what we did right there. We did 20 times M, which is months. 20 times 12 equals 240. Okay, and then for the other one, they said go 12M plus 100 because it's only 12 bucks a month for gold. Okay, so we just go 12 times 12 plus 100. So 12 times 12 is 144 plus 100 is 244. So gold, it ends up over the course of the year costs $4 more than Cable Guy. Okay, and then our choices here are Cable Guy offers the better price, which is true. Gold offers a better price, no. Same, no. I don't care, probably is a yes in reality, but of course on the test it's not the right answer. So Cable Guy offers the better price is what we want for question 16. Okay, this one's easier. Of course, easy and harder are just sort of relative to if you're familiar with what they're asking you. Okay, so with a square, what we want to know, okay, when it says a square ABCD has an area of 25, what is the measure of angle B in degrees? So this thing about area of 25 is completely useless information. Okay, they're just asking us about angles. In a square, you have 4 right angles. This is what happens for every square. Okay, and a right angle is 90 degrees. Okay, that's all you got to do. Okay, that was an easier one. All we needed to know was that there are 4 right angles in a square, and every right angle is 90 degrees. There's your answer. Okay, parallelograms. Parallelogram ABCD, angles B and D are opposite, and angles A and C are opposite. Okay, now, so before we even get past this first sentence and get to what they're asking, is we need to know that in a parallelogram, opposite angles are equal. Okay, so it says angles B and D, and also we need to know that in a parallelogram, the total is going to be 360. Okay, that's what it adds up to. Let's go ahead and put that over here because I know that's coming. Okay, our total is going to be 360. And it says angles B and D measure 120 degrees each. Okay, and so 120, we'll do this over here somewhere. 120 times 2 is 240. So if you put those two angles together, they're going to total up 240 degrees. And okay, and they want to say what is the measure of angle A, right? It says A and C are opposite angles. Opposite angles are equal. So A and C are going to be exactly the same. Okay, so we have A, we have C, we have the 240 degrees, from angles B and D, and all that's going to add up to 360. Okay, so once we subtract 240 from each side, we're going to have 360 minus 240 is 120. Okay, and again, these are equal. They're going to equal exactly the same. So we can just call it 2x, or 2c, or 2a, or whatever we want. They're going to be the same. Okay, 2x is 120. Divide each side by 2. And x is going to be 120 divided by 2, which is 60. And so that means A is going to be 60 and C is going to be 60. The question was, what is the measure of angle A? That answer is going to be 60 degrees. So the key things to understand here were, because this can look like a really hard question, like I think like the strawberry question, for example, is quite a bit harder than this. You need to know that in a parallelogram, the total is going to be 360 degrees, and you need to know that opposite angles are equal. Okay, so this is relative to a lot of other questions, this would be valued as a pretty hard GED math question. But if you know those two things, you can set up a pretty simple equation and go and solve and get x is 60 degrees, or angle A is 60 and angle C will also be 60. Surface area. So surface area, there's really no easy way around it, as we have to memorize formulas to get surface area questions right. So this is kind of like a running theme here of the last several, is I would not be focused on surface area if I was still struggling with anything in level 1, 2, or 3. Okay, that's much more low-hanging fruit, and I would go get that first. If you're all over level 1, 2, and 3, and you just want to get like the best score, then let's go over surface area. Okay, so let's write out this formula. Surface area of a cylinder. Okay, so bear with me here while I write this out. Surface area of a cylinder is 2 times pi r squared h. Right, r is radius, and height is h, plus h times 2 times pi times r. Okay, and so you could probably already see, like, so there's, it'll be a little bit of time just spent memorizing just this formula just for the cylinder. So for example, like if you're still like somewhat a little bit shaky on just area of a circle, and those kind of questions, I gotta go get those first, right? Those are easier, like a lot easier formula to memorize. Like area equals pi r squared is quite a bit easier to remember than this thing. All right, so we'll keep going. Surface area. Okay, now we're really just plugging in though, right? If you've memorized the formula, you've done the hard part. Okay, then it's just a question of plugging in. Okay, so surface area is, again, we carry that 2 down, carry the pi. So it's 2 times pi, and then first question is radius. What is radius? So it says here diameter is 12, right? So we want to know that radius is half of a diameter, right? So that means that this radius is going to be 6 squared times 8. Okay, all of that plus, again, height is 8 times 2 times pi, and then again radius is 6, right? We having fun yet? This is a tough one, right? But so the calculations, like as far as just like computing ability, it's not really going to be that hard, right? It's just a question of having the formula and then try not to make a mistake. Okay, so we carry this down again, we got 2, okay, times, so we got that 6 squared there, and that's 36, right? So we're just going to call it 36 pi. Times 8. We'll figure that out in a second. Plus 8 times 2 is 16, so we'll call this 16 pi. times 6. Okay, so as we go further along, 36 times 8 is 288. So now we're going to call this 288 pi. Times 2. That's a 2 there, sorry. Plus, if we go 16 times 6 is 96, so we'll call this 96 pi. So it's starting to look more manageable, right? Okay. 2 times 288 is 576. So now we have 576 pi plus 96 pi. And then we end up with 670 pi at the end. Okay, so that was a mess, but I'm glad we got through it. And so let's see here. What do we have left? Volume of a rectangular prism. Okay, volume says a little easier, right? So for volume of a rectangular prism, it's just base times height. Okay, so the width we disregard, and we just know that we have a base of 7, height of 8. 7 times 8 is 56. There we go. Okay, so that one's easier, right? So we have videos on the surface area and the volume. There will be links below the description, at the bottom of the description rather. So definitely recommend checking those out. If you're at this point of the test where like the stuff you need to know about are like systems of equations, volume and surface area, things like that, that should be really like the very last stuff that you're getting to. But if you're there, awesome. Right? You feel like you've got levels 1, 2, and 3 covered, and you've mastered a lot of the topics, right? So in the app, you're trying to master topics, and so if you've mastered a bunch of them, then you're in great shape. So again, if you have any comments or questions about any of this stuff, just leave them for us, and somebody will get back to you. We certainly appreciate the effort and time for anybody who's at the end of the level 4 practice test, which is where we're at right now. And again, recommend checking out the links to the videos down below, as well as the app. Appreciate all your time, and we'll see you on the next video.